Hello RPG Maker Cola listeners, hoping you're having a great day today, ready to hear some awesome development insights from our guest. This is Benny speaking from 2025, letting you know that this episode was recorded 1.5 years ago in 2023. Yes, this is a lost episode that I never got around to editing and releasing, but I'm glad that it's finally available for your listening ears. This one's a really fun one with a really great developer. But since it was recorded in 2023, some things are out of date. We do talk about Unity's scandal regarding the runtime fee they had introduced in 2023 as of its current, which has since been reversed, so our brief discussion of that might not be as relevant anymore. Additionally, we talk about RPGmaker.net as if it still exists. It does not. As of 2025, the site is down, but it is currently undergoing a rebuild. So unfortunately, if you're listening to this at date of release, you can't visit RPGmaker.net right now, but many of the games that were available on RPGmaker.net are available in the Internet Archive. Just Google RPGmaker.net Internet Archive if you want to download any of the games that we mention that are hosted on RPGmaker.net if they're not hosted anywhere else. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this candid conversation I have with my good friend and incredible developer, zDS.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to RPG Maker Cola.
Hey RPG Maker Cola sippers and dippers. Welcome to your fizzy soda-filled source of content for game development opinions that mean very little in the grand scheme of things. It's your favorite RPG Maker podcast, RPG Maker Cola. I'm your host Cash, also known as Cashmere Cat, also known as the Puzzle Snob, and this is the place for you. It's casual, it's cool, it's cola. But today I have a great guest. We're going to talk with one of my friends here. This developer is the creator of Worlds Far and Wide. I first discovered his penchant for the surreal and his grounded approach to gameplay design that sometimes feels more like puzzles, but they're battles, using these battles to push a story so uniquely that I don't think he's like any other game dev out there. Starting out with Cope Island, a game that won third place RPG in the Indie Game Maker Contest 2014, and then moving out onto other great behemoths like Three Ghostly Roses, a surreal story about Edmund coming to terms with himself, the incredibly downbeat Mount Quest for Peace, a game about gentlest bugs coming to terms with their own deaths, and then refurbishing but also expanding both of his early games with Cope Island Adrift and A Ghostly Rose, a game jam called Amythical, and an upcoming game that's upcoming. That's all I have to say about it. And it has a train in it. Yeah, this is one of my favorite developers of all time because he's a great developer to play his games, but also because he's been a great friend of mine. Please welcome the incredible, the inedible, hopefully, and the utterly unforgettable zDS. Welcome.
Wow. That was amazing. I'm pretty sure we should just stop recording and that's it. We can't top that.
But yeah, it's great to have you on, and we're just going to shoot the crap about some games.
Sounds good.
Specifically yours. And the making of those games, because we've had, we obviously had you on the podcast in the past, twice over already. And I thought a great place to start would be to go through our history a little, just like a brief recap for the listeners, a recap, well, for us, not so much for them unless they've listened to the other episodes. But honestly, before I even knew, personally, I was impressed by your incredible game, Cope Island. This is when I discovered the Indie Game Maker Contest 2014 version, where I think you came third in the RPG category, using the default RTP graphics mostly. Is that how you remember?
Yes.
I saw you on RPG Maker Web, I think, was the first thing we posted there. And how did you feel going into making that game and posting it? What was your feeling surrounding the creation of that game?
Wow,
and posting it?
That was a really weird time in my life. I had just got back from Norway for the first time in my life, and I was really oh shit, I'm back in Illinois, really? Then I heard about the contest, and I'm oh, I can actually win money with RPG Maker games? Okay, I'll give it a try. And it was the first game I posted online, like in public, I think. So it was really nerve-wracking. It was just an interesting game because I did not think of Co-op Island before I started making it. It was all like a part of the process. It was like, oh, I'll make just a castle game in an hour.
It's like freestyle jazz.
Pretty much, it really was. And then I was like, castle was kind of boring. How about an island and a beach? So I just made a song thinking of a beach, and that's where it started.
Yeah, because you're like very song driven. I do know this about you. Make music first and then it inspires a lot of this stuff later. So I suppose you'd make is it every game that you've made you've started with the music?
Almost. Actually, my game now, I did not. I kind of like thought of it for years now. Like while making A Ghostly Rose, I was just thinking of this game the whole time, really. A Ghostly Rose is done in my head. I just hadn't make it, you know.
That was like curious to me that you were like, because I felt like A Ghostly Rose was so like important of a game. We're gonna like skip forward and backward in timeline, but this is a game you made later, and then it was shocking for me to read that while you're making that game, you were obsessed with your next game while you were trying to finish A Ghostly Rose.
Well, when I was making Co-op Island, even the first one, I had my big game in the back of my head. And the same thing with 3 Ghostly Roses and Co-op Island Drift, etc., etc. I always had a big game, but most of those have died. This one, however, is living and being made as we speak.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Because did you see it as like, you know, like you're like training with these smaller games until you get to the bigger one? Or was it like sort of like refining certain aspects that you'd want to use later?
It was absolutely training, 100%. You might hear my kid.
Yeah, it's fine. Because you had these features on like Copilot, the original one. It says like mega fast-paced battle system, randomly generated weapons. Actually, I'll read the synopsis out. Like, find yourself on a mysterious island where you gain score by tackling turn-based RPG battles in the least amount of turns possible, with a small selection of randomized weapons. That does sound sort of like a through line for what would become like the template for a zDS game in a sense, except with the gaining score part. But your games always feel quite constrained to like, because I've mentioned that they sort of feel like puzzles, but they do feel very constrained to smaller numbers and almost like if you make 2 or 3 mistakes, you're gone sort of thing. Was that always like the intention to make something very minimal like that?
Weirdly enough, that's kind of an accident based off my past decade. It kind of started with my first attempt at the Ghostly Rose story, 4 Ghostly Roses, which has never been posted online. Yeah. But that was the first game I made that had one character. And with one character, it's kind of more of a puzzle rather than just having a standard you get damage, heal with another character, etc., etc. And it kept just happening naturally, honestly. The one character puzzle-based style gameplay.
Yeah, because it's like, because when you have like several characters in a party, you're able, the main thing about it, I guess, is synergy and role assumption, I guess, where it's like, hey, you've got, a basic one will be one person attacks and they're good at attacking and they have like high HP or something. And then the other one is like, I heal you, but I can protect myself. And there's like these roles that you have that synergize between 2 or 3 or 4 characters. But you're like, if you make like a solo RPG, you're like synergizing with yourself, I guess. Is there like a mindset that you've come up with when making these single character party RPGs?
I think every single time I did it, I learned a million lessons. And then I applied those lessons to the next one. But then I learned a million new ones. And I've never solved it, in my opinion. But pretty much the main thing is you have to make the whole party in one character. And the best way to do that is actions. Like, you can act 3 times in one turn.
Yeah, I've noticed that because, like, even when I was looking back at, like, your game, A Ghostly Rose, it utilizes lives and actions quite a bit. So you have, like, action economy is so important to, like, the balancing of, like, if anybody out there is wanting to make a single character party RPG. I guess it's like you have to think about action economy and how many turns it takes to get to a place. Is that what's like in mind, I suppose?
Definitely. It's definitely in mind the whole time. It's really strict because, like, that's why I did the whole heart thing in A Ghost of Rose. Pretty much the heart thing for listeners is if you die, a glass heart breaks and you become fully healed. So just in case, like, there's a big attack and you just die randomly, it feels less cheap. So you feel more prepared for the next time it happens. And you can use it to heal yourself even. So if you're out of healing and like, crap, I'm close to dying, just let yourself lose that heart. And you have a limited amount, obviously, but pretty much it's just making it feel more fair to the player. Because in RPGs, you can always just mess up and die instantly. It feels a little more unfair when it's one character.
Yeah, so in essence, each of your party members is dying, but it's just the one person dying several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like the minimalism of like in the initial Cope Island, there was like the default RTP graphics, but I remember you saying earlier that you have always been someone who has dabbled in like making your own custom pixel art and stuff like that. Even before this entry, you just chose to use default RTP graphics for your Cope Island Indie Game Maker Contest entry because it would save time. Because there's always those sorts of decisions you have to make when you're like accounting for like, what will make this a viable thing to create within this time space, I guess. So I was always impressed by like how you reduce things and how you make things seem minimal and how you don't include the entire kitchen sink in your games. Specifically, I think it was with your new game, I just need to look up that name, Kissed by a Star. That's right, Kissed by a Star, where like you've said like you've actually pared it down quite a bit. Is there something in all your games sort of do? What's your approach to like getting rid of what's not needed?
It takes a lot of just like thinking, like in the shower, driving, or trying to sleep. Because when you make a game, you have to sacrifice a million things. You just have to do it. Because usually when you are the type of person to make a game, you are creative. And creative people often don't have boxes in their head. Like you're just everywhere. So I think it's important if you actually want to finish a game, you have to put it in a box. You have to make sure it's possible to finish or make. Otherwise, you'll be just in dev hell forever.
Yeah, you've been on my case for... you used to be more on my case for a long time about finishing games. Joining game jams can be a trap.
They are a trap.
Explain further.
I say the first time is great.
Yeah.
I say if you never had joined a game jam before, you should do it. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of important lessons you learn. And usually game jams are there to like teach you to finish a game. So usually it's like you have a month, make a game that lasts about an hour. Well, it turns out making a game in a month, even an hour long, is a complete nightmare.
Yeah.
And so if you do it like one or two times, that's great. If you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, which a lot of people do, it's just, there's no growing really. It's just forever in a cycle.
Yeah. And especially if you want to like make something that's bigger, like, and you just keep going, oh, there's a community jam, I'm going to join that. And you're like, it won't take too long, but it takes a lot out of you. And I suppose there's game jam games that also, that, a lot of game jam games have expanded into something greater. So I don't want to completely unilaterally like discount game jams entirely, but like, it's sort of you can get into a trap of like, oh, I'll do this little thing here, little thing there, and then you don't actually finish any of them. I think that's the main thing, finishing things.
I forgot the disclaimer that I mean, like, if you just make games for fun with your friends, those are where you want to be. But there's also tiers of game jams, such as the Indie Game Maker Contest is serious. You are making a game for money, and it's a lot more intense, and there's a lot of judges. Or if it's just like make the dumbest game you can possibly make in a day, that's a different experience. Yeah. That's fun and lighthearted. And it also applies to it, like if you are like me who make games seriously in some extent, where you want to make like the best and biggest game possible eventually, they are a trap. But if you don't really care, go for it.
Yeah, and it's funny how things can come out of that, like, because there's different types of like scales of games. Because I think, for instance, there's that YouTuber that creates games and like, oh, I created a game in a month based on Squid Game or something, and then they created Crab Game, and then it became a massive sensation. So it's like everything in context. Like it's like because I think it's also being smart about it. Because like if you're making a game jam game, but you're making it in a way where it could hit something, like you could make a completed product in like a month, then sure. But if you're trying to make your 50-hour RPG and then like, oh, you get distracted by every single jam, then it's like, okay,
It's also important to state that, like, if you do a jam seriously, it takes a lot out of you mentally.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're like making your real game, no matter how long it is, it's important to, most likely, and this jam will take like out of you, so you can't really focus as much on that until you recover. So it depends on the context, really. But in your context, you have a big game you want to make, so that's why I kind of nagged you.
Yeah. And I'm currently learning. I did some game development learning yesterday and on Thursday. So I'm learning Godot now. It's weird because Unity is in a stage of like controversy at the time of this recording of this podcast. So
yeah, it's really they really messed up.
Yeah, so I'm like,
good thing I never jumped.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We will ask that question now, I guess, because you have used RPG Maker pretty much exclusively, right?
Yes. Wait, no, actually, I did use Unity years ago with a team, but I didn't really code or anything, but I did use it a bit.
Why did you stay with RPG Maker?
Simple. Because I'm a dumbass. That's it. I do not know how to code. And honestly, the games I make are very possible on RPG Maker. Like, you don't really need that much more to it. If I didn't want to make a turn-based game, it would be a different story.
The only thing that I would like think maybe sometimes that you might be good if you used Game Maker or something is those blinking like UIs for battles and all the troubles that you've had to, for example, like with a Ghostly Rose, the overlays and layouts and stuff. Once you got more complicated with those sort of things, maybe then it's like, okay, I maybe it's like a new engine thing. I don't know.
Absolutely. Honestly, there's a million things that would be better if I used something that wasn't RPG Maker. But the issue is I would need to hire someone because I am not capable of doing that by myself. Yeah. And if I hire someone, I lose all of the small income I get from this.
This is where our history sort of like coalesce in 2016 in September when we Team Slime came together with Jiro and Sol, yourself, and me when we made this prototype for a game called Slime Village and the Mysterious Stream of Water. Yeah, what was your experiences making that?
Honestly, it was a lot of fun. Like, almost every game dev experience I had before was just serious.
Yeah.
But that time, like, I wasn't really that serious about it. And someone I liked, you, asked me to join a team. I'm like, okay, let's try it. And of course, you were just like super ambitious about it. The game you wanted to make would have been a masterpiece. But impossible to complete in a month, especially for a silly little contest that it was. It wasn't even a contest. It was just like a for fun game jam on RPGmaker.net. Yeah. And it was just really laid back, and I was letting you just unload all this ambition on me. And I was like, I love your enthusiasm, but not going to happen.
And looking back on it personally, because Slime Village was intended to be sort of like an open world puzzle simulationist experience.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I have all the right ideas, but I've learned stuff now about how a game functions in the long haul of things that I would do it a lot differently in terms of arcs. And I've played a lot of non-linear puzzle games now where the ideas that I was trying to go for, I was going about them all the wrong way. And also the implementation of the main mechanics, I was doing it in a real janky way that would have had lots of technical debt later on in the project. And also I think I wasn't in the right mindset to finish a big project. My discipline was not there and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of funny looking back at that.
I think you were not ready to finish the game, but at the same time, it was important in your journey.
Yeah.
Because it was actually a really cool game idea, but I think there were a lot of lessons you learned in that.
Oh, yeah.
And at no cost, really, because we became friends after.
Yeah.
So it really was no cost to it. And it was just very laid back. And I remember making the songs at work. So
yeah,
just good time.
Maybe one day I'll return to it.
I don't know. It might be in our graveyard of possible ideas. Like, I think that game was supposed to exist in 2016 and not 2023, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's funny. I've been playing a lot of Sokoban games. There've been a trend of those lately, which is quite funny.
Huh.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that they're catching up to Slime Village, so it will seem not as innovative as it was back then. But the ideas we were playing around with, they were certainly innovative for 2016, and probably like you said. But like now, it's like, oh, the Sokoban genre, even the meta Sokoban genre. There's a game called what's it called? It's coming up the top of my head. Void Stranger, and it's all about floors and floors of monochromatic Sokoban, but they subtly destroy your expectations with each turn. It's very interesting. It's a very fun looking game, Void Stranger.
If I try to make games that are innovative, I will fall short. I just try to make something that's good, in my opinion, really.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that the specific like combinations of ingredients that you use to make your games are quite unique. Like we'll go on to like Three Ghostly Roses, for example, which I didn't realize was that soon after Slime Village that you released that?
Maybe.
Because that I was looking at the timeline. I was like, wait a minute. Was that also in 2016 that you released that game?
Oh my God, it was.
So they were like alongside each other, Slime Village and Three Ghostly Roses.
That was a break. Slime Village was me taking a break, I think. Wow.
So it's quite funny that because I seem to remember, I was wondering why I teamed up with you for Slime Village. I can't even remember because I remember playing Three Ghostly Roses and you watching me on stream playing that. And I was just awful at remembering.
That was after, I think.
Yeah.
That was well after, I believe.
Oh, that was a while after, yeah. But that was that it must have been after a mort. But I remember just being like so. That might have been 2020 actually. Yeah, might have been after Cope Island Adrift. Oh, maybe. Either way, I was just.
It was around the same time, I think.
Yes. I was just really horrible at playing that game because we'll get into because that Three Ghostly Roses is a really wonderful game. To me, it does seem more rock paper scissory than A Ghostly Rose. If that makes sense.
It's literally that.
And you added more. Because for the audience, Three Ghostly Roses is a game. Actually, I'll introduce the game with the description that you have on the page for Three Ghostly Roses. It's because this is what I consider to be like one of your major releases, and I think you'll
definitely
too. It kind of also put you on the map a little bit for relatively speaking.
Did.
Yeah, everyone kind of noticed this one. It was created in 2016, or at least released in 2016, where it follows Edmund Brigham, a man who does not remember much. His surroundings are a mystery to him. He finds himself on a road, guiding him towards a keep. Within lies the dark-robed Gatekeeper, who is awaiting Edmund, the Gatekeeper will also be in the remake, A Ghostly Rose. That's not in the description. That's just me commenting on that. The Gatekeeper greets Edmund Brigham in his own twisted fashion. Unmoved at the Gatekeeper's attempts at riddles and mind games, Edmund's thoughts are stained by a silhouette, a rose, and there's a bit more of the narrative stuff. Let me get down to the features. So Edmund must overcome the trials. Solo character, battle system, 2 to 3 hour long story, all original NES inspired graphics, and all original soundtrack. So yeah, it says the battle system fast, challenging, and fair. There are no healing items. You recover health by killing a foe. Attacking normally grants Edmund FP, where he uses arts to destroy the foe's weakness, which is also in A Ghostly Rose as well. But that was where did the idea, I guess, because it was just Edmund being a solo character that you wanted. I guess it came from the story, right? To the necessity for the solo character battle system. But where did this idea come from for Three Ghostly Roses, I guess, in general?
So Three Ghostly Roses is a remake of a unreleased game I finished in 2013 called Four Ghostly Roses. So pretty much I was developing Cope Island Adrift, but I was working with a company that shall not be named to helped me with it, and they literally just ghosted me. Mm-hmm. So I had a contract to make this game, but the people who contracted me were not responding, so I did not know if it was possible to make anymore. But I wanted to make a game, so I'm like, okay, I really like Four Ghostly Roses, but it used runtime package graphics, which for those who don't know, and surely you do because this isn't RPG Maker podcast, but runtime package graphics are the stuff that comes with RPG Maker. So it's just the stuff that everyone uses. And usually when you release a game with those, people look down on it. Get back on track. Four Ghostly Roses was really ugly because I was used to using a different type of RTP before that. And I thought the game was cool and all, but it was just ugly, and I evolved way past that. And I really wanted to remake the game. And since I couldn't make Cope Island, okay, let's make it. And just to like even teach myself how to do everything by myself, because I didn't know anything about like even scripts or how to make my own menus. I learned all that in that game pretty much. So to get to why I like did the rock, paper, scissors in it, which honestly, I really don't know why I did it. But at the time I was thinking, let's make a very simple game where you just feel good beating enemies up, pretty much. So like you uppercut an enemy that's weak to it, they die no matter what. So I just wanted a very casual RPG experience with this one. And if it was like a 30-minute long game, it'd be fine. But it was about 3 hours, and issues became obvious after about an hour and a half of playing it. I'm like, oh, this does not work for a longer game. I think it worked to an extent, but not to what I wanted it to be, pretty much.
Yeah. And like, and then that's where you decide to, I guess, recontextualize it within the fable of Edmund. And I'll ask as well at the same time, have you had a history of telling stories before 3 Ghostly Roses or 4 Ghostly Roses, or wherever you started telling games and stories in games? Did you write any novels, or when was your like first storytelling like influence?
Honestly, it was probably me as a kid just playing with toys, really.
Yeah.
That's where it started. I would have elaborate stories with my action figures, and I did it for years. Usually I made elaborate games. Of course, it's not the same as making a game, but it was still like just growing my creativity and whatnot, and just learning how to learning a lot of mistakes, even like just toys, really. But afterwards, sometimes I'm like, that was stupid. So you just gotta use everything you have to eventually move forward. I always knew I wanted to make games. Really, ever since I saw RPG Maker on PS1, I'm like, what the hell is this? I was too young to do it. I was like 6, maybe 7. But I was like, oh my God, I really want to make my own game. And then my older brother found out that there was a thing called RPG Maker 2000. So I played around with that when I was like 10 or 11. So it just kind of started with me making these really, really, really shitty games as a young teenager. And I just kind of kept it going and became more serious about it as time passed.
Yeah, nice. Because I see A Ghostly Rose, and I was like deeply touched by the game's story, and you know the way that you tell stories is very unique. But I was just wondering if there was any other mediums where you started that with an audience, but this seems to be like your first audience. Yeah, this is just like straight out the gate. Pretty interesting that that's the case. And I guess it comes down to, because you also I guess had influences about storytelling as well. Where would your influences come from, especially when it comes to game development? Like, because you say it's like SNES or NES inspired. Are there particular styles that you were into that really informed your storytelling or style?
I think really it's the most boring answer ever, but Earthbound. As a kid, I was really into Earthbound, and there's just a way that game is told that's kind of not like other games, almost like childlike how it's told, but it's dealing with very serious stuff at times that a lot of people might even not even understand that's serious. But it's just like a lot of my personality comes from these old SNES games, more than NES, because I started playing more NES as I'm older.
Yeah.
I grew up playing SNES pretty much, and I don't know, I think my influences to actually make a story come from everywhere. Like games, TV shows, movies, books, music.
I mean, anyone who knows you knows you're a fan of The Simpsons.
That's more of my personality when you talk to me. I'm just a recurring shitty gag always when you talk to me.
Yeah. And
watching The Simpsons again, I'm like, oh, that's why I'm the way I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think Simpsons has a lot of because it's a very long show, so there's like an ups and downs within the show, but like there's also some very masterful sections. It's like a mixed bag of like great, awesome, incredible stuff, and some stuff where you're just like, oh, I'd rather not, it's such a magnificent show.
I think you can section it a bit, like the first 10 years or so, even 9 years, you can just say that's a different show. That's the masterpiece. Well, afterwards, it's always good, but it's not as good as it used to be. So a lot of times you're seeing these plots and you're like, come on, this used to be the best show ever. Now it's just like this.
Yeah.
But really, it's really not bad. It's fine. It's just not a masterpiece anymore.
Yeah. And it is funny because, in a sense, like that and Earthbound have the commonality of like absurd comedy, which is just like, oh, it's funny because it's absurd and it's sometimes dark. Like some of the storylines in Simpsons can get pretty dark. I mean, Homer is a dullard who has a job controlling like entire sections of nuclear power plant sections, and he does not know. He seems to not know anything about how any of it works. It's very dark and funny, and I think there's also some absurd comedy in your games. Like I say, like like A Ghostly Rose, and we were talking about wrestling as well earlier. Where like you're like punching the weapons. We'll get into A Ghostly Rose is like a redo of like Three Ghostly Roses in a way, but like you're punching weapons, and there's a lot of like arts and fighting and low kicks and punches in these games that you make. That's I can link that to wrestling as well, the absurdity of all this sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely wrestling, Dragon Ball Z, Simpsons, just absurd. Because I feel like I just wanted Edmund to punch walls, and it just made that dungeon feel more, a little more fun, I think, because I didn't really want puzzles. I just wanted, I want the dungeon to feel fun to go through without puzzles, because not every game needs a damn puzzle for a dungeon.
Yeah.
It depends on the game.
Yeah, because I mean, even, how like I do know how to design some good puzzles, and I do like puzzles, but when I see puzzles in RPGs, it's usually like it doesn't cohere with the central appeal of the game. And that's why I feel like, like a lot of RPGs, when you get to a puzzle, it feels like, oh, are we doing this? And it doesn't even, not always usually like a good puzzle anyway.
I think a lot of times people just feel like they have to have something in the dungeon that's not battles. But in reality, dungeons and RPGs are just about surviving pretty much, mostly. Like, you don't need to solve a riddle. You just gotta survive it. Because the gameplay is still the main part of the game, the battles. And I think people kind of forgot that over time. But this does not apply to every RPG. I'm just saying as like, you don't have to have it. So if your game doesn't need it, you don't have to put it in.
Yeah, because in your games, like you see the battles function more as puzzles. The reason why I say that is because you usually have some form of like resetting the state before each battle to the point where you could almost even pinpoint exactly how strong the player is going to be before they get to a certain enemy. Because your games so far, there have been, I think Cope Island Adrift has more of a non-linearity to it, but like for example, A Ghostly Rose is in essence still quite linear. You have specific strategies that go better with each enemy and stuff like that, and you can really craft that experience to make it like require a lot of thought, I guess.
Pretty much ever since like Cope Island, I have made total control over how players play my games. To make sense out of that is, like, if you're playing an old Dragon Quest game, you can grind to level 40 at the start of the game if you want and just plow through it. Like, you cannot predict how the player will go about it. And even Cope Island, when it's not linear, I still have total control, because if you do path 2, path 3 will always be stronger. Yeah. Like, the enemies will be stronger. So I kind of made it so I knew exactly where you would be if you fight that certain enemy or so. And I've been doing that since, even in my new game.
Let's talk about the new game. I'll introduce the new game as well. We're doing this non-linearly, which is quite fun.
It's fine.
Because
we can be messy.
Because I feel like all your games sort of connect in these weird ways. I mean, 2 of your games are, and actually, let me get this right, because I keep screwing up the wording, but what would you say the relationship is between Three Ghostly Roses and A Ghostly Rose, and then again Cope Island and Cope Island Adrift? Would you call them remakes, reboots, something? What do you like to call them?
That is hard. A Ghostly Rose is easier because I see Three Ghostly Roses as the NES game, and A Ghostly Rose as the SNES game. To make sense, like, if you play Zelda 1, it's a great game for its time, but then you play A Link to the Past, which is the first one on SNES, the only one on SNES. Pretty much, it's even called A Link to the Past because it's like Zelda 1, but better. That's what the game is, pretty much. In a lot of ways, it's the same, like, in their mind, probably, with not really a sequel. It's more of the same game, but being made in a better way. The same can be said for Metroid and Super Metroid and even Mother 1 and Mother 2, which is Earthbound. So that's how I see Three Ghosts of Roses to A Ghost of Rose. Like, it's a sequel, but it's also the same experience, but just better or different.
And in some ways, it's like a high fidelity version.
Yes, it's like just better graphics, better music sound font, stuff like that. But at the same time, I didn't want to replace Three Ghosts of Roses. So like you can play Zelda 1 and like it better than A Link to the Past. They are different experiences still. So I kind of wanted the same for that.
Yeah, they do feel different. Even both of your remakes, reboots, A Ghostly Rose feels more, because you've changed it from 3 to 1 Ghostly Roses. It feels more singular, more focused, maybe a bit more bare and minimal. I think it's meaner, a little bit more gritty and sadder. It feels a bit more downbeat, A Ghostly Rose, to me than 3 Ghostly Roses does.
I think the big difference for me personally is the fact that Three Ghostly Roses was me making a fun story about a character I thought of, while A Ghostly Rose was based more on actually me and stuff that happened to me and whatnot, and just stuff I was going through at the time. So like that's the main difference really, because Three Ghosts of Roses was not really that personal. And I always kind of felt that I was missing about it personally. Some people might prefer it, and that's more than fine.
Yeah. I think my favorite game by you is A Ghostly Rose. After I finished 3 Ghostly Roses, that was my favorite from you. But I think after A Ghostly Rose, it kind of stuck with me deeper, probably because of that personal dimension. The story seemed more impactful to me in the long term. I was like, oh yeah, I can feel you were able to draw from your own resonant experiences.
Yeah, because like Edmund, the character, is a lot more like me in A Ghost of Rose, while in 3 Ghosts of Roses, he was more like just a random secret agent from medieval times, while in the new one, he's mid-50s dad, which that part is not me. I still had a lot of like quirks he did in the game that were based off me, and his daughter in A Ghost of Rose is a lot based off me. Just like generally how I went about writing them. And a lot of like random stuff he says too is just the type of stuff I would say.
Yeah, it's a thing I feel about art and stories in general. When you're writing a story, the thing that has helped me to write is really about like interiority of characters and exploring that. That's usually, like, even in action-packed films, you get a sense, say, like in Mad Max Fury Road, you get a sense of the main character's past. And actually, now that I mention that, Mad Max Fury Road has some of the similar feeling, in my opinion, to A Ghostly Rose in a way. I don't know if have you seen Mad Max Fury Road?
I have not, but now I really want to.
It's got a similar sort of, it starts off as a portrait of a character who's been through a lot already before the story even starts. And he's sort of scarred by, in a real and mature way. And I don't know, it's not completely similar, but there are I see some similarities in the way that it's also explored through punching.
I think you're pretty spot on, because when I made like this story in general, my mindset was an action story, but the action mattered, which I know a lot of those exist, but most of it is still an action story. It's not all about the sad stuff. You're punching things and you're fighting random people here and there, and it's just like big fights mostly. But I didn't just want a story where you punch things. I wanted like to convey something of me into it while doing that.
Yeah, the punches have tears on them. Yeah, the tears of enemies. I'll read out the description for Kiss by a Star, because I was going to do that earlier, but I forgot. This new game, Kiss by a Star, is a turn-based RPG with heavy novel elements, traversed through several rapidly paced chapters featuring a cycling cast of point of views, from fighting monstrosities in a smog-filled forest to lazing about on a passenger train. You never know where the journey will take you. So I read a little bit of the blog entry on this. The game seems quite ambitious, and you've described it as like this might be your big one. That the others might be like practice for. And it seems to have like an unpredictable format of storytelling with a large cast of characters. And we've just been talking so much about like solo characters that now that seems like a departure from your previous stuff. And I forgot to mention your game Amythical, which was made for the Indie Game Maker Contest 2022, I think. So my question is, why all the characters now?
I think it was like more than a decade or just about a decade of me only making one character. I did not start that way. In reality, I kind of always wanted to make something similar to Game of Thrones. The books, not the stupid ass show. Where the books are like one of the things that really like made me really want to make something good. I was reading them and I'm like, I have to do this. But I'm not a writer. I'm not an author, you know. I cannot write poetry about doors and how the sky looks and et cetera, et cetera. It's just not my way of telling stories. I tell stories with games. So really it started there pretty much. And I always kind of thought of my big story, which was just, I didn't want to make it, you know, the same thing as Game of Thrones. Obviously, my games aren't remotely similar, but I love the idea of just like sitting down and making a chapter that like eventually keep telling these chapters to make a really big world that mattered. So I just kind of wanted to lose myself into a world that I made myself and actually try to make something really good.
Yeah. So
pretty much that's why I'm suddenly making 1 million characters. I always kind of wanted to.
Yeah, 1 million characters, and it's longer too. It's like it's like longer, probably more epic in scale. And you kind of you said you pared it down to like more light RPG elements because like, you know, you said something like make it easy to jump into a chapter at any time and not feel overwhelmed. Is this like in any contrast to the previous style of zDS minimalism? Is it going to feel different? Is it almost like a series of chapters, you said, right? Is that what it's going to feel like?
Yes. So pretty much it's going to feel like a zDS game still because I did sacrifice a lot of RPG elements even in Cope Island and all the Ghostly Roses because those games are simplified versions of RPGs. But I went even further that direction this time. So it still feels like it's me. Pretty much there's just no levels, no experience, no items. The battles are like based off what you have, just like my other games, but even like stricter, I think.
Would you say that the feeling of the game is going to be similar, or is it going to approach different topics? Like, because there's like civilization I see here. There's things like the Aspira is the central country of the world, or Aspira, I don't know.
It don't really matter, but Aspira, I call it, but okay. It could be Aspire.
Yeah, Aspira, and all these things. There's the train there, and there's like high school. There's like scientists, doctors, truck drivers. So it's like sort of it feels somewhat modern. But I feel like it's also going to have some. Is it going to be like political intrigue, or is it what's the vibe? Is it like, because you mentioned like Game of Thrones? Maybe it is going to be more of that sort of like lots of characters interacting in different plot lines and stuff. I'm curious. If you don't want to talk about it, then
I will love to talk about this. So pretty much, it's kind of based off of our time now.
Okay. In
a different world, obviously, but it's completely modern, and I think a lot of it will be very similar to my other games because it's just me and I'm usually a very kind of gloomy person, but there is definitely a lot more to it this time, such as like a lot of the main characters are teenagers, and not in the sense that you see in other JRPGs. They are more like real teenagers who go through shit. But of course, you know, they are still fighting monsters and whatnot, so it's not completely realistic. But I think there's a lot more room to tell different stories than just overcoming monsters, because a lot of this game is made from frustration of playing so many games about, like, say teenagers or even people in general, and there are so many stupid story rules. For example, in most RPGs, the main character and the love interest don't get together until the end.
Yeah.
And I think most people who have lived real lives realize how stupid that is. Because if you connect with someone and you're constantly about to die, you're not going to wait until God's dead, okay?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's just stuff like that. You know, I wanted to make more organic to, like, life.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of different vibes of just, like, people being people. Because usually my other games were mysterious and vague and quiet, usually. But now it's all about characters talking to characters, pretty much, and the inner thoughts of the point of views.
Nice. Yeah. It's like, it's pretty exciting, and to see something of this scale as well. And there's like, I see some cars in there as well. Like there's like
that was hard.
Yeah, and you got like interesting new, like is it actually like quite widescreen, like Amythical, your previous game, and you like got a new style of graphics as well for like
It's more of a HD style of resolution, and I'm definitely, I think it looks like an upgrade graphically from my old games, which means I'm getting better, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's also it looks different. Some of the battle screens do look reminiscent of previous games, but definitely with the tile set style, it looks different to the other works. Like even your sprite style has changed for this one. You got the little slits for the eyes and stuff, and a lot of black outlines as well in a different style to the original one. It's an interesting way of approaching it.
There's something I've seen over the years, and that's people copying Earthbound style. And I thought, hey, I have been a fan of this game since I was 8.
Yeah.
It's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
It's my turn. And the main reason why is because it's so easy to make the characters that way.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have an easy time doing it, it would never be finished because there's so many characters.
Yeah. And you have got a lot more responsibilities now, with fatherhood and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so the smart decisions that you need to make to get things done, you're still utilizing that skill to sort of to go for that.
If I didn't manage this game, it'd be literally impossible because every chapter, which is kind of hard to explain real fast, but pretty much every chapter is a small game, really, like a 30-minute long game. And most of them have drastically different assets, so I have to make assets really fast.
Yeah. Was that was Amythical some sort of a training for that? Because you worked with SB. SB is a good friend of ours. We worked together with them and Superstroke on Amort. SB also helped. SB drew, I think, was it either quite a lot or near to all of the monster sprites of Amythical. Was that the collab there? Or
no, I did all of that.
Oh, you did all of that. Okay. What did SB do in Amythical again? I forgot.
So pretty much, for those of you who don't know, I released a Ghost of Rose last year in 2020, and after I released it, there was another indie game maker contest. So I decided to team up with SB and made Amythical. To answer your question about SB's role, well, SB, a lot like you, was very ambitious and had a lot of ideas. So pretty much he thought of the whole premise of the world and whatnot, and just a lot of that stuff. But really, I did most of the game, almost all of it after that.
Oh, right.
And if he actually did do what he wanted to do, it would have been 10 times better easily, because I had nothing in my brain about what to make. It was freestyle jazz, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Just made something. But accidentally, I made a base for my new game, because before on my old projects, I almost always used RPG Maker VX Ace. Yeah. So this one was RPG Maker MV. And I had no clue how to use it, really. So in Amythical, I was just banging my head against a wall over and over again, trying to figure out how to do the most basic stuff. Eventually, I just figured out so many random things that made my life so much easier in the end. And I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but parallax mapping. Yeah. We're getting really, really nerdy right now, but pretty much in RPG Maker, there is in the engine, you can map your own stuff with tiles and whatnot. But the issue is that is very limited to what you can do, because it's all tile based. But if you parallax map it, you can literally do anything you want. Just draw it if you want. And I figured out a logical way to do that using a mix of Tile D and plugins on RPG Maker to save hours upon hours of dev time mapping, because I'm sure most devs who use RPG Maker know that so many small things can really just mess your map up.
Yeah.
And pretty much I just saved a lot of time. With trees, for example, I don't have to become a wizard to make trees repeat. I can just copy paste them. That's all you got to do. Or on the program called Tile D, you can just make 100 layers. Seriously, you don't need to worry about having 2 layers. So you can go wild with it. And the only thing you really need is to make sure some things appear over your head. So there's a plugin for that. It's very easy.
Yeah, all that type of stuff can make it a lot easier with the flexibility of mapping and all that sort of stuff. And even the look, like, it feels like your pixel style is starting to change a little, even on amythical, with like the cuter looking characters. And
Well, in amythical, the character sprites were SB.
oh, right.
But
yes.
it was for an old game he tried to make, and I just kind of like edited the sprites. Everything else was me though. But his cute characters were his pretty much. And the graphics are pretty much just like, okay, I'm going to copy Mother 3.
Yeah.
Just literally what it is. And keep it much smaller and not as good, because I'm not as talented as a team who made Mother 3. I'm just one person. I'm not a team.
Just one person.
I'm
You're not 20 people.
I'm not college educated in pixel art. So just self-taught and banging my head against the wall until it works.
Yeah, it's really cool like that. And SB has always struck me as a person who's extremely talented but doesn't always care about finishing games, and that's fine too. It's like,
I think he cares about it. He just gets in his own head kind of, but he's super, super, super talented, and like way more talented than I am even. The issue is he doesn't have my skill of finishing things. That's the most important thing though.
Yeah. I'm working on that. Like, I'm trying to finish my stuff and I'm learning a new engine, but like that wouldn't be the same without my relationship and friendship with you folks, like steering me in the right direction of, hey, stay on the one thing. And there's others too, but yeah, it's just basically I've been working on that as well.
I think the most important thing really is to treat it like just a daily part of life, because if you work on your project in any way, shape, or form, even 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, it will be finished in a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
That's all you need, really. You don't need to sit down for 8 hours in a row. You just got to do it a little bit at a time here and there. So in a way, it's a lot like exercising, really, because you can't just wake up one day and be like, you know what? I want a six-pack.
Yeah.
You have to change your life. You have to just work at it a little at a time. And eventually you have it if you keep going.
Yeah, that's very true. And I'm learning that more and more each day. I think I've run out of things to ask. Do you have anything you'd like to say about any of your projects? This might be a shorter episode than usual, but I don't know if we have anything else. Do you have any other topics you'd like to talk about?
Probably 100 things I could ramble about, but honestly, for this podcast, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered some good ground actually, because usually we go for like 2 hours when there's like sometimes 2 or 3 guests here, and one guest for an hour is pretty strong, I think.
I think the perfect podcast length is like Conan O'Brien's podcast, where he has a little 10-minute intro. The guest is like 40, 50 minutes, then an outro. That is the perfect length, because I don't think people want to sit for 3 hours and listen to zDS talk about nothing.
Yeah, I think I forgot about the Conan O'Brien thing. Well, that was one of our first shared podcast medias that I forgot to introduce you as someone who was trying to make my friend, but no, it's not quite the go here, I guess.
I actually personally chose not to do it again. I think the gag's dead. It's okay.
Okay, yes, we'll bury that.
I'm killing the gag.
Officially dead in 2023. Took a while. No, it was good though. I think I'll just close off by saying I'm really excited for this new project. Kiss by a Star, and I thought it was coming quicker than usual, but I didn't realize the scope of what was going to happen. It's going to be big, and I am excited for it, and I will continue to make mine, so maybe we'll release our games on the same day, who knows. But I'm just really, hey, I'll do the Conan O'Brien thing. I'm happy to call you my friend at the end of this podcast. And I'm looking forward to whatever you have to develop in future.
Well, likewise, and I definitely demand to be back here again when I am more done with it.
Yes.
Or if I do a side thing randomly here and there.
You know me. I like to help market your stuff anyway. I like creating your trailer.
Yes.
I forgot to even go into how making the Cope Island trailer and stuff, but that can be for another time.
You totally saved that trailer. I think my new stuff is passable, my first Cope Island one was not passable. It was just like, okay, that's kind of meh.
Oh, I will say, yeah, I love the new trailer, and I also loved your Ghostly Rose video snippets, because the initial Cope Island trailer, I saw something that was maybe a little bit lacking, and then with a Ghostly Rose trailers and also this one, I was like, oh no, yeah, I don't need to do anything. You've got it down pat. The trailers look great, and get people excited, and they're well structured, and yeah, I liked them a lot. I like this new trailer a lot.
When you actually release a game, you kind of learn certain lessons, and one of my lessons was how to show this game to the world.
Yeah,
is a very important quality to have in a game. So I'm always thinking of trailers when I'm making a game now, because Cope Island obviously was not made to be shown in a trailer. It's just a very game.
Yeah.
Now I'm always thinking of how to show this game to the world.
And that's funny because actually I have become more of a consultant than I make my own game, but I've become a consultant on a lot of games. Like I helped with the marketing of A Ghostly Rose to some extent, and I also helped with the marketing of
a lot.
And similarly, I help with the marketing of Colunio's The Lonely League, his most recent game. And I've been like story advising for a few different games, and I find I enjoy that a lot. Just trying to accentuate the strengths of these games that already have strengths, particularly when I know that the creators make stuff that I think should get more attention, like yourself and Colunio and others. That's been the thing that's been buzzing me out lately, is just being able to help others in that meta sense, where it's like sometimes I feel like, oh, I haven't actually made my game as much as I hoped, but I've also just been like helping others with a bunch of stuff, which has been really fulfilling.
It's actually very important to do that, because like even though you're not making your game as much as you might want to, when you finally finish it, you have a bunch of people who are going to be like, holy shit, Cash finished the game. And it will get spread a lot faster that way, rather than just sitting down in a hole somewhere and being alone like I was and making this like a mad scientist in his basement. You are actually making, a web of people who know you and want to see you like win. So even though it may not seem like you are doing the right thing, sometimes it definitely is.
Yeah.
And it's good to help other people out. Like even when I finished Cope Island Adrift, Housekeeping, who made Jimmy in Pulsating Mass, like reached out. I think you reached out to him even, and he just gave this most helpful list of things to really make it more possible for the game to be remotely as successful as it was. Like just a bunch of lists of people to ask to review it or people to stream it, et cetera, et cetera. And he didn't really even know me at that point, so it was really nice on his side to do that. And I still think of that to this day. And like, if I can help someone, I will definitely do it.
Yeah.
And I do try to like push people in the right direction sometimes here and there.
And I think in this sense, that's thank you for that. And in this sense also, like I just get something out of it. Like I just enjoy helping out friends like yourself, even.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And also, but the thing is, because like it also gets people like Riggy2K3 and DZ. They're now fans of yours, funnily enough. Like these people who they're similar to me, where they actually like supporting others, and we can just create this like community of people who support like high quality projects and stuff. And I think that's important for anybody to have. Like for example, like the listener listening to this conversation is just like you find people who will support each other and promote each other, and that's not only like good for game visibility as well, of course, but it's like it's good to like it feels good to have people who will support your things. Like for example, Casey Azimi like retweeted and commented on zDS's game A Ghostly Rose and said I played this game and I liked it. I think he did that right as well.
He did, and it was absolutely awesome. It's like one of my bragging rights, honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like, hey, I did 2 podcasts with that guy, and he liked my game.
Yeah. It's so cool.
So pretty much, I think it's important for every single like RPG Maker dev, like who make it to the next level in some way, shape, or form, such as finish a game that's actually like a game, to support one another, because especially nowadays when it's becoming a complete black hole in social media where it's impossible to be heard or seen, the best thing to do is to support one another, really. And if you like something, you got to just like wherever it's posted, repost it, comment on it, like it, whatever. Very important.
Absolutely, that's the best part of it. It's for me at least. It's just the satisfaction of having friends. Yeah. On that note, I think that's a good note to like end this podcast on. Yeah, it seems like a good a good happy note. Thanks for being on. How can people like follow your game and you and your being?
Oh my God, let me check. I have no idea what my Twitter is, or Zitter, or whatever it's called anymore.
Yeah, I still call it Twitter. I don't like the new name, but hey.
Well, you can follow me at zDS66 on Zitter. I will post updates of my game.
Yes.
Or you can Google rpgmaker.net and somehow find my name on that site, zDS, and somehow figure out how to follow me because that site is outdated. Sorry, but we all love it. We all love it.
Yeah, actually,
eventually I'll get more social media stuff for this, but really, Zitter is the best place for it still, sadly.
Yeah. You actually have more followers than I remember when you were doing a Ghostly Rose, so some of that worked, I guess.
Oh yeah, a lot actually.
Yes, that's us, and that's RPG Maker Cola, and a special bonus episode. I forgot to say this is a bonus episode. It's not part of Season 3. There is no Season 3 yet. Maybe in future there'll be a Season 3. Who knows? Let's do a $200,000 Kickstarter for an RPG Maker Cola Season 3. That'll be a great idea. No, but thank you, zDS, for being here. Really appreciate talking to you.
Not a problem, and hopefully I did not cancel your show.
It's already cancelled. I'm just seeing the Twitter reactions right now to this live feed. No, it's fine. It's.
Oh, you mean Zitter? Okay, you mean Zitter.
Zitter. Sorry, Zitter. Yeah. Anyway, so that's been great, and thank you, zDS, for joining us, and thank you, audience, for listening. We appreciate you very much. I don't know when the next episode will be, but it might be soon, maybe not. But you can just follow us on Zitter, and goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you later. Bye.